After all these events, when she was back in her bed, Vanessa fell asleep so soundly that she didn't even snore a little bit. But at some point, she felt that two strange men were approaching her who definitely did not have good intentions. Then she began to feel their huge hands reaching for her neck to grab her like a boa constrictor and finish what Kyle hadn't finished. Realizing that now it would definitely come to an end, the girl screamed with all her might and jumped up on the bed, but then realized that it was just a dream. Sighing heavily, Vanessa sat down and felt a little sad that the nightmares were coming back to her again. To come to her senses, she decided to go for a drink of water but did not turn on the light so as not to disturb anyone. Soon she made it safely to the tap and poured some liquid into a glass, and the sound of running water calmed her down slightly. For some reason, she was in no hurry to drink and wondered why she could not forget them. The next moment, Vanessa shuddered when she heard Mr. Paralan wondering why she couldn't sleep. Noticing that the girl was frightened, he immediately apologized, explaining that he did not want to scare her at all. He just heard footsteps and came to check. Then he reminded her again that she could call him by his first name and not Mr. Paralan. Vanessa was a little embarrassed but agreed, realizing that no one could hear them now anyway. Oscar then asked if she wanted to discuss the cause of her restless sleep, realizing that she was having a nightmare again. Vanessa was in no hurry to answer, and the chief was curious if she had ever killed living people before. The nanny was still in no hurry to give an answer, as if she did not want to talk about it. But realizing that he could not lag behind, she admitted that she did not do it. Then in a firmer voice, the girl added that she didn't regret it now because she didn't just kill them at that moment. It was quite clear to Vanessa why those people had come to their cottage, and she was just acting instinctively. Still, the nurse admitted that all this now seemed to her only a dream and she could not quite believe that she had really done it. The memories of it seemed foreign to her and she didn't know if it was normal. Oscar explained that she had done everything right. The nanny explained that she had acted like in training within the framework of the situation, but now she did not know if the head mistress would understand her. Vanessa also knew that she couldn't ask Barbara directly, worrying that she might not understand. Oscar approached her and, taking his chin with his finger, advised her that she should still ask her mentor about it. Then he let go of her face, and the girl felt a slight embarrassment as if she was being given advice like a small child. She doubted whether she had done the right thing that night, although she knew that she was only protecting the boy. Then Oscar said that he did not know what her agency would say to this, but he himself now owed her a huge debt. Then Mr. Paralan leaned closer to the girl and confessed that he was simply fascinated by her. In the next moment silence fell between them and their silhouettes were illuminated only by the glare of the light of the night city. Vanessa saw Oscar leaning closer and closer, but she didn't resist it. But the next moment they heard a scream. Both of them realized it was Cody screaming and realized that they weren't the only ones who couldn't sleep that night. Mr. Paralan and his nurse went to see how his son was, guessing that he had also had a nightmare. As soon as he opened the door, Cody immediately rushed towards him shouting that these people had come again, and his father hurried to calm him down. Oscar assured the boy that it was just a dream and that everything was fine now, but he still burst into tears while he was comforting his son. Vanessa quickly organized hot chocolate, admitting that she had not forgotten to add milk to it. Mr. Paralan thanked her for her concern and the girl explained that she had done it with pleasure. They then stayed in Cody's room for a while, and Oscar held his son in his arms until he fell asleep again. The next day, he, Nick, and Anna gathered around the kitchen table discussing who would get together and leave first. While Anna was assuming what would happen if the mafiosi got to them, Vanessa offered to make another game. Mr. Paralan's assistant noticed that he was not listening to her at all but was thinking about something else. Nick admitted that Oscar had nothing to blame himself for because no matter what the nanny and Cody cooked, it smelled just delicious. Then the guy approached the boy and asked what they were doing, and he explained that they were cookies, offering to help him with this matter. Nick reached for the baking sheet for a cookie but immediately received a brush with a wooden spoon. Cody explained to the surprised man that all this was for Clark and these cookies were part of their peace agreement. When Nick returned to the table, he assumed that they looked like doves in love, adding that it would not end well. At that moment, Vanessa came up to them with a tray and, explaining that they had baked more, offered to treat themselves. Anna and Nick were frankly surprised because it smelled really good, and they immediately took one cookie each. Then the girl told Mr. Paralan, who was thinking about something, that he should definitely try it. Then Anna asked Vanessa why she hadn't baked anything before, and she explained that the Senora did not like to be in charge of her kitchen. At this time, Cody realized that Mrs. Kenneth could not command here and suggested that they should all stay there. Oscar explained to his son that the construction of the extension was almost finished, so they would not stay here for long. Then he tasted the cookie himself and at that moment realized that he had never tasted anything tastier in his life. Then he added that perhaps they would stay here for a couple more weeks, and Anna added that this should definitely bring them closer to the Mafia. Nick meanwhile dialed one number and said that they would be able to find out very soon. 10 minutes later, Madame Colt drove up to the hotel parking lot with whom Mr. Paralan had arranged to meet. He approached her very soon with his 2 men hoping that the meeting would go as planned. She gave the command and her men brought a bound Kyle, who shouted that they would all pay for it. Madame Colt called the prisoner a fool and then explained that he was the very payment. Mr. Paralan noticed that his brother looked tired and suggested sarcastically that he had had a busy week. Kyle stated that he always thought about the good of the family and added that Oscar was always weak and weakened more when his wife killed herself. He also shouted that he knew what he wanted to do and added that killing his brother would not help him become a Dawn. Oscar explained that he was not going to kill him, besides, he did not intend to listen to his stories. Mr. Paralan then pointed to the car behind him and explained that unlike him, their uncle intended to do something very different. At the same moment, Dr. Wanda got out of the van and greeted the prisoner in a rather friendly but ominous way. Kyle realized what fate awaited him and began to ask them to stop, shouting that he would say everything if only she was removed. But Wanda only leaned a little towards him and added that he would certainly confess everything to her. After a while, the prisoner was already in the Paralan complex in Elle and, after confessing, he swore that this was all he knew. Kyle stated that he did not know anything more about his plans. He just saw an opportunity and Oscar himself provoked the Mafia. Then he bowed his head in helplessness, and Wanda began to explain to the boss that nothing more could be extracted from this man, but still, she loved her job very much and offered to order cleaning. After which she began to prepare for the next stage. However, Johnny asked her to leave the prisoner here for the time being, adding that he might still be useful. Don now realized that Cody wasn't the only target and he couldn't believe that the man would be able to cross the line. He also admitted that this almost surprised him. Wanda at this time offered to write a report. Johnny agreed, but it wouldn't be mentioned because it was about his son, so Oscar's mind would be clouded. He also asked the doctor to keep him in the dark until they were finished, adding that he had enough troubles of his own. Mr. Paralan meanwhile made his way through the room trying to do it quietly so that no one would notice him. There was a box of cookies on the table which he liked very much and he hoped that he would be able to steal a couple of them. But at the moment when he was about to touch the box, he immediately heard a piercing scream, about which he was even a little dumbfounded. Immediately Vanessa and his son entered the room, and Cody began to shout that this box was for Clark. Father began to explain that he thought there were only leftovers, remembering that Adam still managed to take out 2 cookies. The boy immediately blocked the box with his body, saying that there could be no leftovers because everything was fresh. Then he pointed out that he tried very hard with the packaging box and a beautiful bow so that his friend liked everything. Then he grabbed the package and told Vanessa that he needed to deliver everything to Clark urgently while there was still something to deliver. The nanny also admitted to Oscar that they had sent invitations with a choice of 3 locations in neutral territories where the boys could meet. Now they are waiting for an answer, and Cody was worried that it would be safe there, and his father assured that everything was taken care of. The boy did not understand why there was no answer for so long, and Vanessa assured them that they would come soon and suggested that they go to the roof for the time being. The girl reminded him that today was the swimming pool, and Cody gladly agreed because it was one of his favorite activities. As they headed for the exit, they were suddenly stopped by Mr. Paralan, who wanted to go with them. The boy was even a little surprised, as he thought that his father was too busy now, and he assured that he also wanted to swim soon. He changed his clothes and they all headed for the pool together, and Cody did not stop hurrying them. At first, he offered to play ball and demanded that Dad catch it and then throw it back. Vanessa also wanted to try to catch the ball standing behind Oscar, but he deftly caught it and surfaced to throw it to his son. The girl again paid attention to his pumped body and mentally began to pray that the agency would help her. The next moment she didn't notice how instinctively she caught the ball, and Cody began to yell at her not to stand still. Vanessa immediately pushed off, and the inflatable toy flew towards the boy across the pool. The kid and his father began to enjoy such an activity, and the nanny was not used to seeing him like this. The girl saw that now Mr. Paralan was laughing and acting like an ordinary person who could not be said to be a mafioso. Then she again found herself thinking about the wrong things, realizing that Oscar was an ordinary person. She knew it well now, remembering the moment when he hugged his son very tightly and burst into tears. Still, Vanessa did not forget that despite all this, Mr. Paralan was different, not like everyone else. Oscar noticed again that their nanny was thinking and assumed that she had decided to give up. Then she turned to the boy and offered to beat his father, and Cody liked this idea. The girl immediately picked him up on her shoulders and shouted that Dad would not get the ball, and he began to ask him to get off. Then they heard that such a game was not entirely fair, and turning around, the boy noticed that Adam had come up to them. He immediately admitted that he had come with gifts and showed several packages of ice cream. Everyone agreed to take a break. Vanessa sat down on the edge of the pool to enjoy the taste of a cool dessert. At such moments, she felt so calm that all the cruelty she had experienced seemed forgotten. She watched Mr. Paralan play with his son while occasionally glancing at her. Then Oscar suddenly leaned over and said something was leaking on her, but she couldn't understand what he meant. A cold drop fell on her finger, and she realized her ice cream was melting very quickly. She immediately began licking it fast, trying not to drop a drop, while asking the others not to laugh at her. At that moment, Oscar seemed more like a child longing for his treat. Then Nick called him, and Mr. Paralan knew he had come for a reason. Explaining to his son that he would be away for a minute, he gave him his ice cream so the boy could finish eating for him. Vanessa noticed as he left that he put on his usual mask very easily, like the sun setting behind the clouds. Adam noticed she looked a little sad and admitted he couldn't remember the last time Oscar had spent a whole day by the pool with his family. Adam explained it was almost always like that, one thing happens, then another, so there was never peace in the family. Vanessa asked if he had thought about changing his profession. He said wasting time on such thoughts was life-threatening and added that it was impossible to leave the family. He understood that Vanessa had already grasped this herself. Adam admitted he could dream of living by the sea with a cocktail in one hand and a surfboard in the other, then smiled to lighten the mood. As Vanessa listened, she kept glancing in the direction of Mr. Paralan, who was whispering to Nick. She also paid attention to Cody and, remembering Adam's words, was sure it was nothing like that. Reflecting on all the previous events, she was certain it was quite the opposite. Still, Vanessa believed she could change everything and thought again about how she might do it. After a while, Cody received an envelope and immediately ran to brag to his nanny that they had agreed to the meeting. Vanessa saw they had chosen the park by 11 o'clock and explained they needed to be well prepared. The boy rushed around, declaring it was imperative to take a shebare with him. He brought a pack of pencils and handed them to Vanessa to put in her briefcase. Cody also wanted to show Clark Captain Feather and ran around the room collecting a few more things. Most importantly, he must not forget the cookies. Vanessa now understood how much this child was looking forward to meeting his friend. Mr. Paralan wished them a good time, and Vanessa asked why he did not want to go with them. Oscar recalled the agreement was only about nannies and asked Vanessa to be at ease with the baby. Vanessa was surprised there would be only nannies, but Oscar added that guards would be placed around the perimeter. Vanessa suggested Adam go with him, but Oscar said Nick would accompany them. The nanny agreed, promising they would ensure Cody's safety, and headed for the exit. After a while, little Paralan saw his friend from a distance and rushed to meet him. Clark saw his friend and realized he missed him more than he had thought, and he ran toward him. At the same moment, the friends hugged tightly, and their nannies watched how the children were not faint to rejoice at such a long-awaited meeting. Clark immediately apologized for blowing up their hotel, but Cody begged him not to apologize, explaining he didn't hold grudges. Then his friend suggested they look at the ducks and give them all names, building a hierarchy. Cody admitted they had baked cookies and began waving to Vanessa to get the box quickly. The nanny complied, and Cody handed the gift to his friend, who said the cookies were very beautiful. Then he asked his nanny for permission to try one. She allowed it but reminded him there was still lunch ahead. The children grabbed the box and ran to a separate bench, while the nannies remained in place, watching them from the sidelines. Clark's nanny worried they would eat all the cookies, and Vanessa encouraged them, saying they would get more lunch. Then the girls talked a little about how Clark got a new nanny and other little parenting things. Clark's nanny admitted previous nannies couldn't last long in the position. She introduced herself as Josephine but said Vanessa might just call her Josie. Cody also introduced himself, and she admitted she had heard a lot since Madam had told them about Vanessa. Vanessa asked what exactly, and Josie said the mistress advised them to be friends with her. Meanwhile, the boys came to the pond where they noticed a very fat duck and admired it for some time. Cody stated the duck should be the main one because of its hairstyle. Then they noticed a wagon rolling on the other side, with several children and their nannies. Those children didn't look happy, and Clark assumed they were being punished for misbehaving. At that moment, Cody met the eyes of one of them and realized it wasn't just children and nannies who had taken them for a walk. Vanessa also noticed the horde and thought there were too many children for just 3 nannies. Josie asked Vanessa if she knew about the mafia, whispering it in her ear, which surprised Vanessa a little. Josephine clarified she was referring to the nanny mafia, adding these 3 ladies ran the park. Vanessa took a closer look at their identical clothes and assumed these women were from the same agency. Josie admitted they were from a mega agency that took a dozen children at a time and formed a group like a kindergarten. At that moment, one of those children began to scream and cry violently as if something had frightened him very much. The nanny next to him immediately shoved a lollipop into his mouth to quiet him while she indulged in sweets herself. Josephine added that these people were very serious, making it clear it was not worth interfering with them. Vanessa noticed all the children lined up in front of the slide, with one nanny seating them one by one. She picked up one kid who didn't dare resist but showed no joy. The nanny placed him at the top and prepared to let him slide down. The kid slid down with the same serious face and was picked up by another nanny. This continued until all children had taken a ride. Clark and his friend watched and found it funny, but Cody didn't quite understand the fun. Clark decided to try the slide himself and joined the line. When picked up by one nanny, she noticed he wasn't wearing a life jacket, a violation of their rules. She lowered Clark back down, saying he wasn't allowed there. Cody doubted his friend wanted a ride, but Clark assured him he was fine and offered to go on the swing. Little Paralan didn't agree and demanded his friend get a ride, but the nanny refused, explaining everything was on schedule. She added that each child was entitled to 3 slides and 5 swings before lunch. Another nanny menacingly stated she had no extra time for other people's children, took the next boy from her group, and Cody tried to explain who his father was. The nanny leaned over and growled, making him look like a witch, and said his parents could just buy services from them. Then she looked at Vanessa and told the boy his babysitter was a lazy cow who didn't want to take him down the slide. She turned and asked Cody to get away, which angered him, not understanding how she dared to talk like that. Clark immediately approached and asked his friend not to do anything, to wait for everyone to leave. They could look at the ducks in the meantime. Cody said it was an attack on the Paralan family's honor and he wouldn't tolerate or forgive it. Still, they agreed to play elsewhere for now and found fun on the lawn hiding behind trees. The nannies kept watching and tried to understand what the boys were up to. Josephine was especially worried. Vanessa looked closer and realized it was more like a spy game. Cody rolled into the bushes and held out his hand over the foliage, holding a small duck like a periscope, waiting for a report. He turned the duck several times as if scanning the horizon. Clark peeked out and said the enemy base was unguarded, so they had a chance. 3 nannies discussed limiting juice to half a box so children would go to the toilet less before bedtime. While they talked, Cody crept up to the cart on the other side, posing as a spy. One boy couldn't understand and prepared to call a nanny, but Cody put his hand to his mouth and pointed to be silent, admitting he planned to free them. Clark tried to unfasten his seatbelt but found it difficult. Cody urged him on. Vanessa noticed their strange behavior but decided to wait. When the boys finally unfastened their seatbelts, 3 strange nannies noticed and prepared to drive them away. Cody shouted he was escaping prison and waved his belts like a flag. The nannies chased after them, but the wards began to run away, shouting and playing merrily. One by one, they pulled off their vests, freeing themselves as if from heavy chains. Some climbed trees, worrying the nannies who didn't know how to bring them down. Others jumped into the pond fully clothed, splashing merrily. Cody commanded the kids, showing the nannies who was boss. At that moment, someone grabbed him under the armpits. It was Vanessa. She demanded an explanation for the mess. Clark helped by shouting it was an uprising, proudly raising his hands like a winner. Cody tried to explain that one nanny had discredited their honor. Clark pointed at a woman who had called Vanessa a lazy cow. Vanessa lowered Cody to the ground, realizing there was nothing wrong with his plan. The boy insisted that the nanny had discredited their honor, so he wanted to sort it out and free the other children. The same nanny came and demanded an explanation, yelling at Vanessa and Josephine that they couldn't be called nannies if they let children run rampant. Josie pointed out it wasn't their children causing trouble. Cody's nanny said they were about to leave and asked the kids to follow her. She wished she could cope with them someday. Vanessa smiled back, telling her not to worry. Turning back to the kids, Vanessa noticed real chaos on the playground, with nannies trying to gather children in a pile. She agreed with Cody, feeling these women got what they deserved for their treatment of others, especially the children. Soon, Vanessa explained to the boys it was time to say goodbye, although they didn't want to part. They hugged tightly, and Cody said they definitely needed to meet again. Clark said he was free any day. He apologized to Vanessa and hoped she wouldn't tell his mother anything. She understood they just wanted to help a friend. Cody said he was proud of what he had done and had no regrets. Vanessa had no intention to scold him and told him he had done well, handing him a cookie as a prize. The boy asked if Vanessa had seen the girl who jumped into the pond and imagined how her parents would react. Soon, Cody proudly walked down the hotel hallway in front of his father, declaring they had returned. Oscar asked how it went, and Cody boasted about his heroic deed. He said Clark proved worthy as his deputy by showing courage. He slammed his fist on the table like a real boss and said if they were together, no one could stop them. Oscar decided he should be worried, but Vanessa explained it was just a small scuffle on the playground. Cody proudly announced they had freed almost a dozen children. Vanessa added no one was injured. Nick said he was happy to film it all. Next time, Cody wanted to go to an art museum to better explain the prospect to Clark. As he spoke, Mr. Paralan listened attentively. Suddenly, someone called Oscar. He took out his phone, realizing it might be important. It was his mother calling. He stepped aside, admitting to her it was a big surprise. She explained that Anna had left quickly after his recent call and was curious if he was all right. Mr. Paralan was a little surprised that she decided to visit his mother but said it was very nice of her. His mother, however, pressed him not to dodge the question and asked again how he and her grandson were doing. Oscar tried to explain that they were doing well, but at that moment Cody began to shout that the milk was not chocolate and threw a tantrum. Mr. Paralan hoped his mother did not hear the screams and assured her they were really all right. She said it was up to her to judge and asked her son to come visit her with Cody. She explained she missed her grandson very much, and Mr. Paralan promised they would visit in about a week. Mrs. Paralan was looking at a photograph of her, still very young, in a friendly embrace with her old friend. She told her son she was satisfied with the timing of his visit and looked forward to it. Late at night, Vanessa spent time on her laptop as usual. Realizing the best defense is offense, she decided that if she kept an eye on everyone who had a motive to harm Oscar and Cody, she could find the main threat. She already knew Kyle had been neutralized and that she and Madame Colt had a temporary reconciliation. Then she opened 3 more photos, trying to understand who might cause harm next. Vanessa saw that Mr. Paralan maintained good relations with the gang and that Braco's affairs did not intersect with theirs. The triad would want to negotiate terms anyway because Madame Colt refused a contract for half the luxury items. A certain Alice was obsessed with sports cars, and Vanessa saw that the next weekend there would be a Grand Prix. Vanessa began to rummage through the network in search of information and realized the event would take place in the neutral zone. She knew Alice would never miss this and started planning future actions. In the morning, Anna explained to Nick that she had an acquaintance who could get them tickets to the club, and he reminded her that there was strict security there. Vanessa threw a folder on the table, saying it should help, then immediately walked away to avoid interfering with their decisions. She began to eat buns, pretending to be just hungry while hoping to hear something useful. Suddenly, Mr. Paralan announced that Nick would go for a walk with them today, surprising Vanessa since they were going to the zoo. He admitted the animals loved Nick. Vanessa suggested Adam might have fallen ill, and Anna sarcastically admitted the driver wanted to remember his past life. She added that if Nick got bored, he could be thrown into a cage with the big cats, which Nick was not happy about. At that moment, Cody began to shout, calling Vanessa to help him find a tie, and she immediately went to him. As she headed for the exit, Anna decided to see what was in the folder Vanessa had brought. She found a map and was surprised to see a drawing of the club terrace, with indications of where CCTV cameras and security were located. There was even a list of VIP clients. Anna couldn't understand how Vanessa knew they were going to have a meeting there and assumed she was spying on them. Nick added that they had just become predictable for her, and Oscar decided Vanessa was getting more serious. At that moment, Cody and the nanny joined them. The boy said Vanessa needed to think carefully about what she dreamed about for the zoo trip. Vanessa offered to see the giraffes, but Cody said it wasn't necessary right now. Nick teased him, saying he didn't like animals. Cody explained that if anyone loved animals at all, they wouldn't be locked in cages. Their guard explained that many animals were born in cages and couldn't survive in the wild. Cody philosophized that it wasn't right to keep someone raised in captivity confined when they grew up. Nick and Vanessa looked at each other, puzzled at where Cody had learned such ideas but didn't comment. Vanessa suggested there was a lake nearby and proposed the boy go feed the ducks. Cody was delighted, saying ducks were much better than all the animals he had seen. They decided to take a boat ride so Cody could get a better look at the birds. Noticing a multicolored duck, Cody asked Nick to row closer quickly, hoping to catch it. Vanessa suggested he leave the ducks alone, but he refused. A sunbeam caught Vanessa's eye, and she looked closely to see a glare from the opposite bank, like a mirror. She realized it was unlikely someone was just playing, it was more like a camera. Vanessa tried to figure out who the man filming was, if he was photographing the birds or the ducks themselves. She looked at Nick and knew from his expression that he had noticed the suspicious photographer, too. Vanessa feigned excitement that it was already late and told Cody it was time to return. She suggested he take some pictures of the ducks to practice drawing them later. Cody agreed, and Vanessa began photographing the birds while moving to where the unknown photographer had been. Later, Nick printed the photos and gave them to Oscar, explaining that although the face of the person wasn't visible, the camera was suspiciously good. It was odd the photographer only took pictures of birds, always against the sun. Anna said she didn't like it because it looked like real surveillance of Cody right after the assassination attempt. Mr. Paralan said he was going to take Cody with him to Milwaukee, but Anna doubted whether that was right. Oscar admitted Madame Colt would also go and that he wanted to invite her and her son, with Vanessa looking after the children. Nick reminded Mr. Paralan he wanted to keep Cody away, but Oscar said he had made up his mind. Nick didn't argue and simply expressed his observation, hoping Oscar would calm down. Oscar growled that Nick should leave his observations for the man chasing his son and leave the room. As Vanessa walked past her son's bedroom, she heard him prove to her that the duck was actually a male. The boy said she didn't understand ducks. At that moment, Mr. Paralan entered. Vanessa approached him, and he explained she needed to prepare for a long trip, beginning with Milwaukee, then Verona. He whispered this last part to her. Meanwhile, the police officer investigating the case was looking at a photo of Cody he had taken. He knew the boy was the heir since the captain of the guards stood as his bodyguard. The policeman thought the entire mafia had left to deal with bandits but realized they wouldn't leave so easily. He determined the mafia's position was now well entrenched in the city and flipped through his notebook. At that moment, he heard his boss shout behind him and dropped the notebook in fright. The visitor interrogated whether he had completed the case according to statistics. The officer admitted he hadn't because he was working on another case. The chief hovered over his desk, growling that this case had long been closed and demanded he not forget about it. The head left, advising him to leave it alone for his own good. He added, since the policeman was good at drawing, he should have changed his profession, but the man couldn't, especially after what the mafia had done. He was determined to continue his investigation. The next day, Vanessa checked the list to make sure they hadn't forgotten anything, especially treats and costumes. Cody reminded her not to forget pencils and a sketchbook. Vanessa explained she had taken graphite and colored pencils. The boy calmed down and said they were now ready for the upcoming journey. Adam asked if a toy duckling named Captain Freezer would go with them and added he had brought cute blankets. Cody tried to explain Captain Freezer didn't need blankets but decided not to argue. Vanessa said she didn't mind taking a nap on the way, but the boy explained she wouldn't sleep but entertain him. Vanessa said she would want to sleep because it was a very long drive, and Cody threatened he would poke her to wake her up. Mrs. Kenneth approached and told Oscar she had prepared a lunch basket, asking if anything else was needed. Mr. Paralan assured her it was enough, as they would be back in a week. She wished them a safe journey. Once everyone was seated in the car, Vanessa noticed the old lady was calling someone again. Soon, Cody began to toss and turn in his seat, asking to open the window and to stop at a pavilion for lunch. He asked his father for permission to sit in the front next to Adam, but Oscar did not allow it. He wanted to change places with the nurse, but the boy explained he just wanted to sit by the window. Vanessa imagined what that would look like. Mr. Paralan still did not allow it. Cody grew capricious, not understanding why he couldn't. He said he was bored, so Vanessa offered to draw a little. Cody asked why they weren't traveling by train. Adam guessed Cody wanted to leave him without a job, explaining he could drive them around the city. Oscar realized this wasn't promising for Adam and reminded him he would not be with them this weekend. Vanessa did not understand what he meant and realized they had other plans. Adam assured that time would fly by so quickly they wouldn't even have time to get bored. Later that day, they arrived in Milwaukee and immediately went to the pier where Oscar was to meet Madame Colt. He asked Vanessa if she could cope with entertaining and protecting the boys, and she assured him there would be no problems. Cody saw Clark from a distance and was happy to spend time with his friend. Vanessa noticed her boss was still worried and assured him everything would be fine. Madame Colt appeared, already prepared for vacation on the yacht, surprised they still managed to get out. She looked critically at Oscar's outfit and said it was too much clothing for the weather. Mr. Paralan explained he burned quickly in the sun. Vanessa recalled how he had spent time in the pool and was now just lying. She saw Josephine there and asked if she was okay, noticing she looked strange. Josie explained she didn't get along well with boats, surprising Vanessa since they hadn't even set sail. Vanessa asked her colleague to sit down and rest. She noticed the boys leaning over the side, so she immediately walked over and asked Cody not to be so close to the edge. He assured her he could swim well. Vanessa warned him he could hit his head if he fell. She noticed Clark already on the rope and decided to protect them from dangerous activities by suggesting a tour of the captain's cabin. The boys wanted to climb the mast. Madame Colt noticed they were frolicking too much and worried if Vanessa could handle them. Oscar said she could handle anything, but the French woman added they shouldn't forget what people might say later. She said he was trying to fool around with his staff, but others might try to get to him through Vanessa. She looked critically at him and said soon it would become his problem. Oscar thought for a moment and assured her she was wrong about him. Madame Colt said she had not come to lecture but to discuss business. Oscar agreed, and she shared what to expect from Alice. A couple of hours later, Cody told his father he needed to invite Clark to their Albuquerque house to see the yacht. Oscar wasn't sure his mother would allow it, and Cody explained she would go too. His father doubted his uncle would be happy with the guests. The boy asked if Clark would sit with them at the race and said he needed to take more goodies. He asked the nanny not to bring anything strange, saying this was the first business deal between their families after the hotel incident. Cody looked serious and said everything should go perfectly on race day. When everyone arrived at the location, little Paralan still couldn't see his friend and grew nervous. Vanessa explained he must be late. Cody said because of Clark, they would definitely be late. Vanessa looked around, searching for Adam, who had promised to wait there. She noticed the crowd screaming and heard someone calling Adam to look at something. The driver shouted he was glad to meet everyone and said it was time to go in. He managed to squeeze through the crowd to the designated meeting point, where he saw Vanessa and Cody and began apologizing for being slightly delayed by fans. The boy didn't understand what was happening and asked the driver to explain in detail. He suggested Adam was a ladies' man, then realized there was still a lot he didn't know about the man. Adam didn't argue and looked proudly at the crowd. Vanessa leaned over to Cody and explained that Adam was very popular and was surprised Cody didn't know this. The driver jumped on the spot, expressing joy that hurt his heart. Cody said he wore horrible shirts to look cooler, and Vanessa said shirts had nothing to do with it. She hinted to Cody that his father wouldn't hire anyone as a personal driver, then pointed to Adam and asked Cody to take a closer look, hoping he could see him on TV. Cody didn't understand, but Vanessa admitted their driver was a racetrack legend. Clark approached his friend and realized the man was once a star. His friend admitted he knew him well. Adam muttered to Vanessa that he could hear the children talking from afar and was sure his surprise was a success. He noticed Vanessa didn't look surprised and admitted she had done her own investigation. The driver was embarrassed, realizing she also knew about the terrible accident that had happened to him. Vanessa, who knew all the teams, asked who he thought would win today. Adam quickly said Milwaukee would definitely win. Vanessa didn't understand, and Adam realized she didn't know something. He explained the highway was narrow and dangerous, so almost no one dared to overtake. If there were no accidents, drivers would finish in the order they started. Adam added this was why Ferrari would take gold and why he didn't race himself. Vanessa realized it wasn't really a race. She understood the triad was unlikely to win because the chances were too small. Adam guessed Vanessa was thinking no one seriously bets on Grand Prix winners. She was worried about the danger, but Adam said the risk of accidents was high, yet the track had the fastest and slowest corners in the league. It wasn't about the car but the drivers, who could also make mistakes. Vanessa realized this was a very dangerous sport. At that moment, Cody noticed a car with a pink ball, and his companion turned his attention to the Renault. Adam leaned over to the boys and asked if they wanted to see everything closer, to which they happily agreed. The driver then led them to a place where they could see everything, explaining the intricacies of good driving. On the way, Vanessa overheard someone suspecting her of spying on other teams. When she turned around, she saw a racer who later said that if he was right, then the most beautiful spy had been sent here. The girl made an embarrassed face and stated that she didn't even know what team he was from, hoping he would leave her alone. The guy, who was handsome, realized he had just been sent away and said that now his heart was broken. Then he added that in this case, they would definitely lose today. Vanessa thought she would regret not making a bet. Still, the racer decided to try his luck again and explained that they would have an after-party tonight.